Welcome back for another amazing episode of the Third Shield Pokemon Go PvP podcast. Guys, in this episode, I have the one and only, the Asian Milkman himself. And in this episode, we are talking about how he swept the North American Wildcard Championship, where he was up against really amazing players like Linden Ryu, who was on our episode last week. So guys, stay tuned because this is going to be epic. Thank you so much for being here, the Asian Milkman. I am super excited to have you because you have just finished the North American Wildcard Championship and you swept it against in the finals with Linden Ryu, who was our previous guest on the podcast. And if you guys watched it, he's a super amazing player. So I cannot wait to pick your brain right after Linden because I know that you have some amazing things to share about PvP. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So before we even get started, I just wanted to find out that where did the name come from? And by the way, guys, before we got on the call, right away you were drinking milk as soon as we opened up the yeah, right there, there it is, living up to the name. So I just wanted to find out, where did that name come from?
Okay, so there's a few origin stories to the name, but the basic idea of the name is I'm mixed race. I'm half Asian. My mother's Filipino, and then my dad's white, and then I didn't say like milk is like analogous to being white, so I just and milk is something I just enjoy drinking a lot of, and I have a lot of fun stories of milk throughout my life, so I just kind of wanted to be the milkman and just throw the Asian tag on top of that, just to kind of make it so that it's a unique name that nobody else in the world should have.
It's not only unique, but it made me question right away. As soon as I saw it, like on Twitter, it popped up that you have won, and then I read your name. It already stuck to my head, and I was like, I know who you are now. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So it's a good name.
Thanks you.
Yeah. All right. So what I wanted to find out, because that's a big deal, what you have just accomplished. So to all the players in Silph Arena and Go Battle League and everything, what I wanted to find out is that, did you have like a specific preparation for this championship?
Like I was practicing the day before and like throughout the week prior, just trying to come up with a team, and I didn't settle on my team. Like usually I pick my team much longer prior to the tournaments because I wanted to just pick that team, just stick with it throughout my practice sessions, and really just hone on the mastering of the team. But a lot of my picks I didn't decide on until the night before, because I was practicing with Arrow, who's another well-known player in the Silph Arena and just GBL. He's got a lot of followers on Twitch and Twitter. But he was helping me find like the couple of holes that needed a slight tweak in it, and eventually it came down to like what I thought was a pretty balanced team overall. And like, yeah, there were a couple goals that I have when I'm making a team. One is I look at what everybody's doing, and see what is missing, like see what can be exploited about how other players are making their team. And so for this cup, I saw that everybody was building a lot of confusion users, because like Hypno and Bronzong, and I thought, all right, because they were doing that because Toxicroak was basically the main threat to the Poison Dark Pokemon in Skuntank and Alolan Muck. And so Alolan Muck I guess those Poison Dark Pokemon are like so common. There weren't too many other counters to them. And so my thought was, all right, how can I build a team without Toxicroak? Because if I do that, I effectively nullify one of their picks, because their main counter to what should be one of the most common Pokemon is no longer on my team. And thus it's kind of less of an impact on their team too. At least that was the thought process I had on starting out the team I was making.
That was a really good point you made, because what I saw also online and everywhere, that people are looking for like the best IV Toxicroak and the best IV counter to Toxicroak. And then you went completely around and were like, all right, so if everybody has that, then I need the opposite of that, the counter to that, the counter to the counter, basically.
Correct.
And so you said that you came up with a team the night before and you stick with that team. So what I wanted to ask you, I interviewed someone and he made an interesting point. So I want to see if you think similarly or you're completely opposite to that. So some people, let's say they pick a team and they have like a lineup of 3 in their mind that they're really good at practicing and playing that team. And they don't really change their lineup. They stick it out even in a Silph Arena once they see who they're facing. They just literally stick with that 3. So do you change up your, basically the 3 based on the 6 and the opponent, or you stick with your basic? Does that make sense?
All right, yeah, so yeah, I will have a 3 that I like a lot. I like if I'm unsure what to do against an opponent, I can at least go back to that 3 and fall back on it, but I don't want to commit to it. Plus, like a couple of the lines of 3. Like prior to this tournament, I did like a freestyle tournament, which includes basically all the Pokemon, and for that, I chose the line that I was running on the Go Battle League at the time, and a lot of people knew that line. It was the Dugong, Munchlax, and Medicham line. And so I had those 3 Pokemon on the team. And so when people see that, they think, okay, we have to be prepared for that specific lineup. And so I can use that to my advantage and think, all right, they think that I'm going to use that line, and therefore I can perhaps do something entirely different. And so that's, yeah. So I like to pick a 3 that I can fall back on, but I don't want to commit to that 3 for every match, essentially.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm going to use all of this information for my tournaments, everything that you share, because this is really amazing, and I'm very thankful that you had the time to hop on. And what I wanted to also ask you is, so now you're gonna have to start practicing, of course, for the Continental, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know already? Is it gonna be the same setup, or is it gonna be a completely entirely different meta for the Continental?
I have no idea what the setup's going to be.
So then you technically can't really practice for it, besides maybe looking up the players?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be something similar to what they did at the previous Continental last year, which was you had a selected amount of picks where you can only choose 1 or 2 of, and then you have basically an open meta outside of those picks.
Got it. So at least have an idea around it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how are you doing right now with Go Battle League?
Well, right now we can't play, but let's see. I think I'm like 2780 something, which is a decent ranking. I got up to the 2800s, and then I fell right before it went offline. So, and I haven't been able to fight back since. But I think that puts me around like 100 or so.
So the reason why I wanted to ask you is because you're obviously, that's a really good ranking, especially in season 2. And then what you just accomplished in Silph Arena. So I wanted to see if there's a connection between the two. Obviously the knowledge and everything, but as far as the play style, do you play very similarly in Go Battle League and prepare your teams, or it's an entirely different process?
That is tough. Let's see. So I think there is a slight difference just because it's a blind format. And so you have to think that people are leaning more towards more common picks rather than, I guess. I mean, all right. So in Great League, you can definitely go off meta. In Ultra League, you can sort of go off meta, but it's not as common. And then Master League, there is nothing outside of the meta. But yeah, for Go Battle League, I kind of try to have an answer to for one of the most common meta picks, but then I also try to have an answer that is different than what most people might use as an answer. And so, like for season 1, I came up with a debuff line, which was 2 Pokemon had debuffs in Dugong and Mantine, and Dugong was the common answer to, or a good answer to, Azumarill and Altaria, but it wasn't a common answer, and so people weren't exactly prepared for that Pokemon. And then you had Mantine, which nobody even was even thinking of an answer to Registeel and Altaria. And then Mantine could also handle grass. And then the last Pokemon was Whiscash, and it just kind of fell into place that that line was actually very good at stalling the game, and I could basically use those Pokemon to intentionally stall the game. Like when people look at the timeouts in Ultra League, it's not usually intended to stall out. It just kind of happens because Cresselia is really bulky. But with the line that I had prior, you had to intentionally stall out the game, and to do that, like you had to match up Dugong versus Azumarill, and that was like a 2-minute matchup there. Registeel versus Mantine is another 2-minute matchup, and then you have Whiscash, who's constantly spamming Mud Bombs, and that'll eat up the clock. And yeah, before the opponent even realizes it, the time's out, and my Pokemon are still there. And yeah, that was definitely a playstyle that people weren't expecting at the time, and I was able to use that to my advantage quite well. And Nowadays, it's much tougher, but it worked. It was fun while I could do it for sure.
Yeah, that's a very interesting tactic because especially now in Ultra League, so many people, what I saw is that they actually aiming for, with, of course they have the Pokemon that barely does anything and debuffs with Cresselia and what is the other one? Susina, how do you say?
Suicune.
There we go, that's it. Entirely different what I said. but yeah, with that you can time out so easily. But anyways, so in Ultra League, what would be like your number one pick right now that you use most of the season?
A Scavalier, I think, is really solid because it's solid against Registeel, it's solid against this Cresselia, and then it's just a generally solid neutral pick. Like it's okay against like some of the Charmers in Clefable, and like I used to like Heracross in season 1, but the biggest issue was that it was weak to Psychic, it was weak to Fairy, and the Scavalier basically does a lot of the same things but doesn't have those weaknesses.
Yeah, those are really great picks. Thank you for sharing that too. So now other thing is, how hard is to, let's say, I don't know, when did you start playing, by the way? How long ago?
Well, I played the game when it came out, and I always played it casually, but I didn't really get into the game, like really get into it until a couple of years ago, so 2018 or so.
The reason why I'm asking is because the number one thing that I hear constantly is, of course, Stardust. Like everybody's running out of Stardust. So I wanted to ask you, how are you doing on Stardust? And if you have any specifics that helps you to save the Stardust, because you have two areas, like Go Battle League and the Silph Arena. Both of them are expensive. So I wanted to find out that if you have, like, let's say you hoarded it up, of course, from the years, or you just have a specific grinding zone area, or just like ideas, that you use to able to keep the Stardust.
Yeah, no, Stardust is definitely not my strong suit either, but let's see. So yeah, just constantly playing, like constantly catching, and then constantly just taking advantage of all the Stardust events is really all I do. And then I mean, there is some overlap because I wouldn't like I don't spend my Stardust on anything but basically PvP, like raids. Don't even worry about that. And yeah, that's basically it. Just got to grind at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I know so many people, when I usually go to just a park where there's lots of people for raid, and those people are taking the raid really serious, and they max out all the ones that they catch, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's PvP only. Yeah.
I remember off the top of my head that there was a battle with Shiny Hunter Ben where he had Linoon, which has grass and electric moves, versus my Azumarill, and that was the lead matchup. And so Linoon would technically counter Azumarill. And so a lot of people struggle to figure out how do they overcome certain lead scenarios. And a lot of people are really quick to switch to the Pokemon that is either counter or the safe switch. But I find that there's a lot of upside to also just staying in that matchup too, and playing it to a certain extent. So what I did in this match was I played, and I was about to throw the play rough, and I noticed, like, by that point he hadn't thrown his Grass Knot yet. He probably expected me to switch, and so I thought, all right, let's push just a little bit more. And then right before I hit the play rough, I actually switched to something that would resist Grass Knot to catch it. And so a lot of people forget that if the matchup is playable to an extent, like you can still do a lot within that matchup. So another example that's pretty common in GBL is the Altaria versus Azumarill matchup. Bubble is not doing anything to Altaria, so there is still some play to be had with Altaria versus Azumarill. You can definitely get to the Sky Attack before, well, actually no, I think that's pretty close, but you can force a Sky Attack, you can charge up to the Sky Attack, and then try to catch the Azumarill. There's a lot of play rather than switching out immediately, I'd say.
Do you have like a daily routine for, let's say, PvP? Let's say in the morning you're doing your Go Battle matches, or maybe in the noon or evening. Do you have any type of schedule, or you just do it like randomly?
I mean, usually I like to do the matches earlier in the day, like around 11 or 12 or so for me. And I don't know, I find just kind of early in the day, I'm just starting the day, just fresh, while my mind's still fresh, I perform better in the battles. Now, if I have like a stream or something later that they want me to do their battles for, I'll just save my battles till then. But other than that, yeah, I try to keep my mind fresh, and I find that earlier in the day, not too early though, because I still got to wake up. But yes, relatively early in the days when I'm strongest.
Okay, so I hope everybody heard the time when you are on. That's the time I won't be on, so I have no chance facing you. So I keep my points. But what I wanted to also find out is that, well, now that Go Battle League is down, of course, how do you keep up to make sure that you are up to date with PvP? I mean, it's just 2 days, but who knows how long it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is just all the Discord chats I'm a part of. I'm still with all the players talking and seeing what they're saying, and I'll feedback off of that. And then of course you have Twitter, who all the players are on, and they're throwing ideas off of each other. So basically that, just be in the know.
And then what I wanted to touch base in, and we don't have to, but I want to ask you, did you have any opinion on basically the player who was banned, Jesus, or did you encounter him or anything like that, or no?
No, I did not encounter him. I mean, on the one hand, it's good to find things that need fixing. On the other hand, you're kind of abusing it to the fullest extent and jumping up on the leaderboards. Luckily, I'm at least thankful that he didn't get rank 10, so we can still have that to chase for. But yeah, like definitely not a fan of cheating, but at the end of the day, I can see the somewhat beneficial side to it in revealing an exploit that needs fixing.
Yeah, because if somebody would have found out how to do that and just use it to their benefit in a few matches, and they climb to the rank 10, and stay there, that would have been way worse than right now. We had a guy who just abused everything and then just every single day won and had like a 250 whatever streak, which is crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, what I wanted to also ask you is, what do you think about Pokemon Go and esports? Do you think that will eventually happen?
That's tough. I mean, I think the potential's there. The fan base is definitely there. It's definitely got the player base that is passionate about the game. And so what we really need at the end of the day is dev support. And we need Niantic to really just jump on the board and be outright and be like, hey, we really want to make this a thing. Because every other esport, besides maybe Smash Brothers, who they have an interesting relationship with their community, but basically every other esport is successful in part because their devs are fully behind it and supporting it 100%. And so for Pokemon Go to have that, we need Niantic to step on board and do that too.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I've been trying to ask every single person that I get on the podcast, and hopefully eventually they also watching this and find out what we really need as a community. But I see that so many trainers are really good at, voicing the needs. So I'm pretty sure that Niantic is reading that to be able to find out, which direction to go. And then one other thing is, so what do you think, what's next for you in the near future?
The near future is start practicing for Continentals.
And then later on, how do you feel about Continental? Do you think you're going to be able to take on that too?
I mean, I think I have just as good a shot as anybody else. So.
No, that's a great way to put it and a good point. And one other thing is that so the question that I would have is for people that, let's say they just getting into PvP, or even players who are just really good at Go Battle League but never heard of Silph and not getting into it, what would be like your number one tip for, you can say it for Silph and for Go Battle League, just like one tip of each to get better?
Let's see. So for one, I think is a lot of one practice, but then two, just watching. Like I got better, I think, as I started watching other players. Like I started playing PvP when it came out, but it was when I started seeing how other players were playing that I saw some of the things that I could do myself to take me to the next level. Like and some players, you know, they'll take like in-depth coaching, and they'll really try to have somebody you know, tell them exactly what's wrong. But I think a lot of the strength comes from figuring that kind of out yourself too. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's how I learned from watching other people playing and then see what they are doing, and that's when I even realized there is such a thing as counting the movesets. And what I wanted to also ask you is, so when you play somebody, so do you recognize their play style by how they are playing and then you adjust your game plan, or you always just go on your own game plan, if that makes sense?
I mean, I'm more of a fan of making them adjust to me. So I try to stick with my plan, and yeah, I try to force them to adjust to my strat, because as soon as I'm adjusting to their strat, I'm behind in the battle, and I'm playing catch up, which I try not to do.
No, that's a really great point. What I also want to find out is, where can people find you right now who are watching and they want to get in touch with you, or just want to see maybe a stream or any videos that you may have? Where can people find you?
See, so I am on Twitch, and I'll stream once a week or so, and then I also do guest streams on other people's channels, like Taco or Arrow, for instance. And then I'm also on Twitter if you just want to follow along and see when because I usually like to announce when I do a stream. And so yeah, Twitter at TheAsianMilkman, or on Twitch at TheAsianMilkman.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We'll link it in to make sure everyone can find you and get in touch with you and follow your journey, because I'm pretty excited to see how it's going to go on the what is it called? Continental. Yeah. Yes. And then what I want to find out is there any one more tips that two things, one tips that you would want to give to anybody to get better, let's say at Go Battle League, and not stress out about the matches, but to improve each day, that you maybe you're doing every day, or anything just for, you know, they can take it a little bit easier, because I see so many really good players who are just stressing out every day about PvP.
I mean, I guess definitely take a break from time to time, because like it's a lot for sure. It's like the constant battles every day, and it can be tiring for sure. So definitely take a break, because coming back from the break, you'll often find yourself playing better than you did before you even stopped playing.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I guarantee you that now that we have this break, who knows how long, for a few days, that people are going to appreciate it more as well when they come back to it. And it doesn't feel like a grind. And then one last thing is there anything that you would change in the game if you would have the power to change it? What would that be?
I mean, I would change it so that there's probably more in-depth mechanics. Like I think there's a lot of things that could be done. Like I would like one day maybe for abilities to be added, but to do that, I think something needs to be done about the CP Cap leagues, because a lot of the abilities wouldn't work in CP Cap leagues, and so I would also look into changing the CP formula, which would then require an entirely new system. So I would change a lot of things if I could, to be honest.
Yeah, I guarantee you there's a big list of things that could be changed up and everything. But I mean, I'm happy to hear that you're thinking about those things, and then you already see the problems. So I'm hoping that we have that chance that Niantic also is, you know, seeing those problems and trying to fix it. It just takes them longer, of course, because it's a big company. But one last thing I wanted to ask is, of course, that, well, let's say if you're able to do this, do you know what's next after the Continental Championship? We were talking about it before, trying to figure it out. But there's one more after that?
think I do recall seeing something about the winners of each continental doing a battle, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, either way, we're wishing you a luck, and we're gonna follow you through the whole process because I already think that you did amazing. Obviously, everybody says that. I mean, 7-0 is a pretty big deal with, what was it, 100 players, 100 and something players,
Yeah,
right?
it's a little over 100 players, I think.
And these are really good players, so it's not just random dudes came together. It's really good players. And thank you again, for doing this. We will link in everything, and then we just appreciate that you came onto the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. It really means a lot. Our channel has been growing so fast thanks to you. So thank you again, and don't forget to please share, comment, and like, because we're giving away our swag to you. We pick a person every single day, and we'll send this to you. So make sure that you play by commenting, liking, and sharing on Twitter and on YouTube. Thank you so much, guys, and see you till next week.